I'm Sawyer, and you're listening to Our House, A to Z.
Welcome back to Our House, everybody.
Welcome back. How was your Valentine's Day?
Oh my gosh, it was the best one I've ever had.
It was?
Yeah.
How come? Because we went to my parents for dinner?
Yeah, it was so cool.
It was very nice.
It was. And I had that phenomenal filet.
Oh, yeah, you got a filet.
Which I heard somewhere a long time ago that, like, one of the healthiest things that you can do is to be on a first-name basis with your butcher.
I was with my mother. We were at Genovese, the butcher.
Zac, wait, did you just say the healthiest thing you can do?
Like, in terms of your meat.
This is very clear. The fact that this statement is coming from you actually makes a lot of sense. That you think that the healthiest thing you can do is be on a first-name basis with your butcher.
I mean, as you're making decisions, as you're trying to make strides in your personal health, one thing you can do concerning meat, specifically regarding meat.
Did he look like a healthy person to you? I'm just wondering. I didn't even see him, so I'm just interested.
Here's the deal.
Like an example of health?
That's like asking if your mechanic's car's oil has been changed recently. That's not a great question. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's like asking if your house cleaner's house is clean.
So your conversation with him was based on, like, the healthy component of meat?
That's like asking if
Or was it based on just the best way to cook it?
Ear, nose, and throat doctor smokes. It's like...
It's like asking if your pastor's a Christian.
It doesn't... It's the same thing. It doesn't really matter. It's like, what are they propagating? It's that he knew a lot about meat.
The health part of it.
Well, we didn't really talk that much about the health part of it. But I'm on a first-name basis with our butcher now is the point I'm making, and I'm better off for it. So...
Wait, where did the healthiest thing you can do comment come from?
Because I was reading something about processed meats and, like, meats that are healthy and, like, you know, buying meat, like, smarter.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I think step one, going to a butcher. There you go. I mean, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
That's
like
a good start.
Specifically like a good butcher, like a butcher that's, like, intentional about getting meat in. That's, like, so you have some options that... Yeah, something.
Buying local.
Yeah,
local
that
meat.
kind of stuff. And not just like hormonally injected.
It's not like shipped across the
Tyson chicken
world.
Yeah, that kind of thing. So, yes.
It's not prepackaged.
So we got some phenomenal fillets, is my point. And wow, they were good.
Wow, they were healthy. Those are some healthy fillets.
Healthy. I feel healthier after eating it. Here's
a question. Do you feel any less safe to fly after all of like the terrible plane things in the last month? Because we're getting ready to fly, and I'm like, oh, okay.
That's true, yeah.
Like, all right. Like, there's part of me that's like, well,
I believe I can fly.
My chances are actually better now of being safe in an airplane because, like, once something bad happens, you're kind of like, well, that's like one for a while, but then it was like another one. And you're like, oh, geez. And then there was another one. And you didn't see the recent one, but the recent one was because we've had like crazy wind. We've had like the insane wind these last few days.
Right.
I guess it was in Vancouver, like all through Canada too. A lot of like their schools were shut down.
Okay.
Churches canceled for Sundays and things like that. I know.
Not churches canceled. Unacceptable.
There was like a flight coming into, I think it was Vancouver, and like a gust of wind right before it landed flipped the entire plane, like took the wing and flipped the entire plane upside down.
No.
I wanna turn the whole thing upside down.
Landed on the top of the plane.
I said upside down, you're turning me.
Oh, wow.
Yes. It was crazy. And they have pictures of it and everything.
Wow.
Of it just upside down.
That's amazing.
Yep.
Okay.
And I don't think anybody died, thank the Lord. There was like a couple injuries, probably like somebody who unbuckled before they were supposed to, before they were taxiing.
What an idiot.
You're not supposed to unbuckle at taxiing either, but not until you get to the gate.
I don't buckle when the sign says buckle. I'm the guy that hides it so that the stewardess can't see it when they walk by the initial time.
Yeah, but here's the deal. It was the people that were buckled that stayed safe because they stayed in their seats while the plane was upside down.
I'm going to say you just made that up and you don't actually know that.
Yes, I did. I read the article.
Yeah, but who put the article out?
So you think the people that got injured were the ones buckled, like the couple that got injured?
Was it on Fox or was it on CNN?
Oh my gosh. It was actually on both of them.
No,
It was even on Turn to 10.
So you're saying you're nervous about it, and people are saying it's got to be...
I'm not nervous about it. I'm not. I'm asking you, are you nervous to fly?
No, I will tell you what I'm afraid of. I am more afraid of something like that happening right before we're supposed to get on a plane and it backing up air traffic for like 6 hours.
Ooh.
That I'm afraid of.
That's
That
the worst.
is almost. See, I'm not worried about my plane flipping over. I'm more worried about just being hung up in an airport. That to me is
Right.
terrifying. Where you're like changing your plans and you miss your trip. Your reservations, and now you're trying to get in a hotel with another 3,000 people whose
At the
flights
same
got
time,
canceled,
yikes.
and
That's
people
all
are
terrible.
sleeping in the seats in the terminal and living off of vending machine food, and there's like fighting going on over the last bagel
giving
at
me
the Dunkin'
anxiety.
Donuts. Yeah, so see stuff like that, you know.
I wonder, do you think if you were in that flight that flipped over, that you would be nervous to fly again after that?
No. I'd be like, lightning never strikes twice in the same place. Like, what are the chances my plane's going to flip over?
You're like, I nailed this airplane accident. This was a good one to be on.
Exactly. Like if you'd been one of the people that landed upside down in the Hudson, you know, that time when the pilot did it. And
I don't
it's
think
like,
it landed upside down, just landed in the Hudson, right?
was it? Oh, I thought it was. Oh no, maybe I'm mixing that up with that Tom Cruise movie where he's like
Probably.
the pilot. Was that Tom Cruise?
I don't know.
No, it was Tom Hanks.
I think it was Snakes on a Plane you're talking about.
It was Tom Hanks. No, it was Denzel Washington. It was Denzel Washington, and he was high, and he like lands,
Denzel Washington?
and he like miraculously lands the plane, and I thought it was upside down. In the,
I guess it could have been.
Anyway, I don't know. Anyway, I'm getting way too many Toms and
I know the guy
pilots
who landed in like
movies.
the Hudson was like the big hero pilot. Remember he like safely landed in like the Hudson River.
And remember that movie when they're like, those planes basically land themselves. They're like, why are they giving this guy all this credit? He like saved like 200 and something lives.
Oh yeah, what was that from?
I don't know. It was funny though.
I mean,
Anyway.
not to be insensitive. I know that there was like definitely 2 tragedies recently with flights, and
There are, but
I
no,
mean, we even
I-
had local people. I mean, there was a family from Barrington. There was a family from like Attleboro.
that
It's
died
like pretty
on that,
sad. Yeah,
that died on that
It was
plane.
pretty terrible.
Really?
Yep.
Yeah. No, I can't say that I'm nervous about flying.
yeah,
I'm
that's
not.
great.
Yeah, how
even
do you
if you
feel?
were in the upside down plane.
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
Hmm.
Like I could understand people being a little triggered getting back on their next flight.
Yeah.
Like, oh shoot, you know, like
No, I'm definitely not somebody who's afraid to fly.
Mm-hmm.
I think for probably like close to 30 years, I flew and never thought about it.
yeah.
And it was like no big deal. I think probably around 30, so maybe the last 10 years has been more like, okay. Like, I think you're more aware that people do die in
Yeah.
flights. Like, I think when you're younger, you're like not really aware of that.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, okay, like you could die. Like, but I guess I could die driving, and I know all of that.
Like,
but I
you're
think
more
the fact that you're
likely-
less in control
Yeah.
in the flight, like you don't have any control, and I don't have any knowledge of being a
So you couldn't like run up and like man the.
well, not just that, but like being a
plane.
pilot, like, you know, oh, those are things that are not big deals. Like, am I getting like stressed out by something that's actually not a big deal and is like an everyday thing, but you just don't do it every day?
Right.
I don't know. But I kind of like just try to do the mind over matter, and like I always will pray and just try to like find peace if I start to get like stressed out and like just think about being anxious or something.
Yeah.
Especially like if you're traveling with like part of your family where you're like, oh, if you don't have the kids with you, or like we're not together, or like our family, like, whatever it is, I'll think
Yeah.
like, oh man, like if it could be great if we're all together and you all go down.
Yeah.
That seems like better, but you know,
Yeah. It does. No, I get
probably
it.
like overanalyzing a little bit.
Probably a little bit, but no, I think that's interesting. I mean, I remember being in that little flight over Rangeley, the little sightseeing thing on the water plane,
Oh yeah.
and
Yeah, I don't love that. I'm not
that-
gonna lie.
Well,
I don't love
so
that.
those feel like it's really, really cool.
Yeah.
But it's also like those are the ones that crash. It's like I feel like 19 out of 20 plane crashes are
I
like
know.
small, private, like
Right.
6-person, little jet, little
People that don't
planes.
necessarily have to go through all the safety checkpoints in order for
Right.
like the plane to even turn on.
And the plane itself is not so loaded with fail safes,
Right.
And so
this plane not landing itself.
right, no, exactly. Well, I mean, remember Hatchet, right?
Yeah.
The pilot has a heart attack, and that's it.
And that's it.
Game over.
Because what are you going to do at that point?
We're going down.
That's what I'm saying. I have no idea how to fly the plane if something
Yeah.
happens.
I should probably read a book on it or something. Watch a YouTube.
I mean, wouldn't hurt.
Yeah.
And I know
Anyway.
I saw something about Trump like firing like 400.
Oh, I love these. Yes.
Oh gosh, I don't. What is the flight people? What are they called? FFA, FAA.
Yeah.
I don't know. Whatever they are.
FAA.
And I didn't even read the article. It was just like it was like a bold.
Yeah.
It was like a bold
Was
statement.
it one of the Doge things? Like just
No, I don't
money?
think it was Doge related. I think it was because there was so much stuff about like the really bad flight that just happened with that plane crash there were like so many things that
Could have been helped.
that went in DC.
Yeah.
That like protocols that like weren't followed. So
Man, that's a lot. It's a lot riding on that. You know, I'll tell you one thing that I absolutely love about President Trump is the like radicalness of his leadership.
I am the chosen one.
I am somebody that it's like I like change. I like fast change. I like radical change. Even if you have to change it again, it's just the idea that like keep everybody guessing because we're pursuing excellence. We're like going for something greater. We're cutting off the fat.
Somebody had to do it.
For all of the upsetting and table turning and everything else that's going on, I'm like, man, thank God somebody's willing to come in and just make changes.
Yeah.
Because clearly we were not okay.
I know.
Even if the changes aren't like perfect,
Well,
even if
that's kind of how I feel. I'm like, do I agree with every single change that's happened so far? No, I don't. There are
Probably
some
not.
things like philosophically that I'm like, I could go without that. But at the same time, I'm kind of like, I was thinking about, they're looking at this insane budget, right? So when I was just telling Finn this morning in college, because he's preparing for a debate, and he was asking like how much debt the country's in right now. And I said, well, let me tell you this. I said, when I was in college in my economics class, I remember him writing $13 trillion on the board and saying, this is how much debt the U.S. has. And I was like, this is horrific.
Yep.
How are we in debt? $13 trillion. I think we're at like 36 trillion now.
crap.
So we're talking nearly
So it
tripled
Yeah.
in the last 20 years. And you're like, okay, if you looked at your like individual household income and you had like extreme debt, you can do the like Mickey Mouse, man, we're not gonna buy coffee this month, and this is what is gonna turn us around. It's like, no, it's not gonna turn you around.
No.
You might need to sell your house. You can't afford it. You might need to sell a car. You can't afford
Get
it.
another
You might
job. Just get another
you
job.
might need to get more jobs to pay for what you have, but you have to do extreme.
Yeah, you gotta do something
It has
extreme.
to be extreme. Shake it the heck up. It's not going to be the little tiny like, all we have to do, and this is going to, no, we're talking huge ship that needs to be turned.
We're going to pay off the Macy's credit card.
No,
Yeah,
like that's,
you got to
those are
sell your
little
house
tiny,
or you got to
tiny,
get another job.
Yeah,
Second
when you're in
income.
these extreme situations, this is an
Absolutely.
extreme situation.
Like
Nothing is
crazy.
okay about it.
Like insane.
Yeah.
There's no sustainability.
I mean,
there.
I was listening to an interview with a woman. She's been at the Pentagon for 17 years, and she's somebody who's like, I'd say mid on like the whole, like, are you anti Elon Musk coming in and doing all this, or are you like for it? She was kind of like, I'd say maybe indifferent, irritated at some things.
Sure.
But she was like, you're welcome to come into the Pentagon. But let me just tell you, like, so many agencies have come in and tried to get their arms around the budget that's here, but it's so astronomical, they can't actually get their arms around it because it's so insane. And the interviewer was like, okay, so like, what would you say the majority is? Because you're thinking, it's the Pentagon. It's going to be weapons, of course. They're buying weapons for defense. She's like, oh, it's personnel. Like the personnel.
Oh, yeah.
And you're like, okay, so there's a good chance, like going across all these federal agencies, they are all saying the personnel is so high, it has to be cut back. We have to be brought back. She was saying, she's like, people keep coming in and we know it. She's like, we know that it needs to be addressed. Like it's astronomical, but it's just too much to even look at, to think about. So people just walk away and leave it. And so it's just ballooned.
Oh, yeah.
Over the last like decades. And you're like, what is happening?
But it is because there is this mindset, and by the way, it's not just in the Pentagon, it's not just in the Department of Defense, it's like
Of course.
nationwide.
Of course,
it's
totally.
this mindset that like they'll just keep printing money. Mm-hmm. And so when it comes to a place that has over 500 billion, is it 500 billion?
I don't know what you're going to say.
Their budget. No, it's 500 million. It's over five. It's like 580 million or something for the Department of Defense. They're the largest.
It must be more than that.
They're the largest.
I think
line
it's
item.
billion.
It is. Yeah, it is billion. They're the largest line item on America's budget. is
Yeah.
the Department of Defense.
Yes.
And by the way, that makes sense.
I know.
Like I don't even have an issue with that. What I have an issue with is that the contracts that are just being blindly signed because
Totally.
there's so much money. So the one that I just read was they replaced 25 reheatable coffee cups on an airplane that are to the tune of $1,300 a piece
Yeah.
for reheatable coffee cups.
I mean, that's nothing.
$1,300
Yeah.
for one coffee cup times 20 something on one airplane, and then some other company overcharged by like 8,000% on hand soap dispensers.
On hand soap dispensers,
not bombs, not laser guided missiles,
I
not
know.
heat seeking, not like anti-aircraft, not like, hey, let's satellite weaponry from outer space where you're like,
we're all for that. We want to make sure we're.
That's going to cost millions and millions and millions of dollars. I get that, but when you're talking about hand soap dispensers at $149,000 because of an 8,000% markup, you're like, hey, somebody should probably get in there and do some homework.
You're like, they need an Amazon Prime account. That's what they need.
Yeah. So I just am thinking, there's something terribly wrong
But
here.
there's no thought when it's not coming out of your pocket and it's coming out of the pocket of all the American citizens that are working.
Right.
Enough is enough.
Enough is enough.
Enough is enough. And
So-
I agree. I will say again, I do not think everything's happening perfectly.
No, it's not. It's not. But it's
some
almost
things need
like
to be
it's
radical.
almost like impossible to happen perfectly. It's like battlefield.
There is no perfect. There's no perfect in this situation.
Battlefield surgery looks very different than OR surgery.
Right.
So like if you are going to die because there is a bullet stuck in your heart somewhere and somebody is going in to take it out, it's not a sterile environment. Things are getting dirty. But a life is being saved. We may have to deal with an infection later that we wouldn't have had to if this had happened in a sterile environment, like an operating room.
Right.
But I feel like this is like the kind of like Trump is coming in as like a battlefield surgeon. It's
Yeah.
like, hey, we're going to die out here unless some quick amputations are made.
Right.
And so
I think a lot of people are feeling that. I mean, even if you look at all of the like polling and everything, it's like, I mean, his percentages, are close to like 60% of people that are like, enough is enough. Like, yes, we're like for this. Let's go for it. I mean, I feel like even not just the conservatives, but I think a ton of liberals are like, had enough.
Well,
you
when
have
you
the
see-
progressive margin that's kind of like the extreme.
Yeah.
They are like, their religion is woke.
Well,
that
because,
is very different.
Yeah, because that's another. We should say that for another podcast. But even the people who are like, wait a minute, I'm paying taxes too.
Yeah.
So I'm funding the transgender parades in Central America to the tune of $200,000 a pop.
Yeah.
I'm paying for that.
Right.
When I can't afford eggs.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So hopefully that's registering somewhere with somebody who, even if you do think that the inclusivity officer is necessary in your company, hopefully you understand that like that role is being paid for by a government grant.
Yeah.
And their $150,000 salary is to do what?
Right.
To like swap out the plates on the bathroom doors? Like, come on.
Yeah.
So,
I know.
I don't
get
know.
it. Anyway, I don't even know how we got there, but here we are.
Here we are.
Here we are.
Anyway.
One thing I wanted to talk about, and this is...
Oh, we got there because of radical leadership and talking about how I think a lot of people, we'll close it up with this. I think a lot of people don't want, they want leaders who make them feel safe where they are, which that's in the church and that's in the world and that's whatever else. They want leaders to come up and like smooth talk and make everybody feel like everything's fine. The biggest problem that people have with Trump is by saying "Make America Great Again." He's saying America's not great.
Yeah.
We're not healthy right now. Things are not okay. And people don't like that. People don't want to hear that. They're uncomfortable. But I think the radical leadership says, no, not only are things not okay, but we actually have to change serious stuff.
Yeah.
Even if it's like a tourniquet, even if it means we're cutting off blood supply to something that we can't do this forever, but we need to do it for now.
Yeah.
And I know from the little bit of leadership that we've done, it's like there are times when you have to do radical things, and there will always be somebody that's like, well, do we have to do it like that? And the answer is no, we can die instead.
Yeah.
No, we can just see how long we can live, continuing to nickel and dime ourselves out of our morning coffees.
Right.
And come to find out at the end, it still didn't work. We just went without coffee all this time.
And there is something about changing like when it comes to big changes, and I've listened to Dave Ramsey for 20 years, and there's things that there's so much truth in the fact that like you have to change your habits. Like you can make drastic changes.
Oh, that's
and
so
those
good.
are so good and like important.
Mm-hmm.
But those changes don't stay if you never change your habits.
That's right.
Because you're going to end up in the exact same situation you were in, and that's what we can't. That's what we have to like work against with the country.
That's right.
In general, that's what you have to do in your own finances. You can go sell a car or sell your house or do something extreme and be like, yes, we did it. a year from now, you could be in the exact same predicament
Yeah.
if you don't change. And your habit is like something that's inside of you. It's
Yeah.
not like we're talking about like it's something deeper. Like your habits come from things that are deeper than just like, oh gosh, I have where was that statement that I always like love? Where is that? You can say what you're going to say. It looks like you're going to say something.
No, all I was going to say was that I feel like those huge changes, the like rip the Band-Aid off type of changes, what I believe happens is the compassion that is king in our culture right now, it says, no, have 1 million conversations before you make a change.
Yeah.
And in leadership, in any type of organization, it's no, have 1 million meetings to try and make small changes in the hopes that it will affect a big change. I am here to tell you right now that I have not seen that to work. It's not to say that it doesn't work. It's not to say that, oh, maybe if you were a better leader, Zach, it would work. What I have seen that to be is, and by the way, this isn't just here at our church, but across the landscape, you know, we've worked with a lot of pastors, a lot of boards, a lot of churches, a lot of leaders, and I have found myself gravitating as we listen to the Lord and lean in. It's like, and again, maybe this is my wiring, but I find myself always driven towards, no, make the bigger change and then back into the damage control. Because there will be damage. Yeah. But like, we'd rather be dealing with damage control, but you solved the big problem immediately, then you solve the little ones. Instead of let's solve 1 million little problems and hope that we arrive at fixing the big thing.
I think the problem is that sometimes it's received as reckless and that there wasn't any thought put into it and there wasn't any, like you were just being extreme and you weren't considering the other things. And I think that that's the lie that...
And that's what they're saying about Trump. That's
exactly. That's the lie that culture wants you to believe. And that's what they want you to believe about anybody who's like leading boldly. Is that they don't care about the people, they don't care about the little things, they're not conscious of all of that, and they're just being extreme to be extreme. And like you could not be more wrong.
No,
with
you couldn't.
That stuff.
Because you got to think, like all of that stuff reflects on the leader, and that's why you have to earn trust. Right. And I think that is something over time that it's like when you do make decisions based on, and this is to all the leaders out there listening, when you're running your business and you're making decisions and that everybody doubts you and everybody tells you you're wrong and then it comes to find out you were actually right. Sometimes you have to remind people of those things to say, no, remember you didn't like this. Remember this was uncomfortable, but then it turned out to be the right thing. Remember when everybody pushed against this, but then we found out, oh, no, this is actually a better way. I think the same thing, especially when it comes to personnel. You're talking about personnel. It's like you're almost better off to clean house. This is why you saw with the letter that went out to every federal employee, right, from the government, as far as like they'd get paid their full salary through August or something if they would resign. That's crazy.
I know. It's extreme.
That's crazy. That went to, I think, 100% of the CIA. So, like, I was listening this morning to IP Frequently. So, Dave and Brad, and those guys are awesome. Which, by the way, I'm going to say it.
That's a podcast.
I'm going to say it. Yeah, that's IP Frequently is a great podcast. It's where I get all of my political information. It's where I'm educated.
No,
but,
those are friends.
I'm actually I'm hoping to have Dave, at least Dave, on the podcast here pretty soon.
What about L. Bradley Sheaf?
I'd have to get him on the phone.
That's true.
I don't know if I could do the phone thing. I probably could. Maybe we could Zoom him in or something. Ben could set it up. Yeah, we need L. Bradley here too. So the Jefe, El Jefe. So it would be reckless, right, to send that letter out and say, wait a minute, what if everybody resigned? Which, by the way, they didn't.
No.
20% right now, which is radical.
Yep.
Of tens of thousands of federal employees, 20% have accepted the offer to resign. Talk about cutting the fat. But here's the deal. Let's say 50% resign and you really only needed 30% to resign. I would rather rehire the other 20.
Yeah.
I would rather go around and hire a fresh another 20 with like a new mindset and a new view on things, a new perspective.
And a lower salary, not just somebody that has sat there for the last 40 years. And
warming
it's
up
like,
a desk chair.
And the salary just goes up every year because it does, because you're a federal employee and it automatically increases.
Right.
I was listening to a podcast recently about just really, really brief, but they were talking about, it was church planters. They were like just talking about how crazy it is right now, like how just people are so like desperate for the Lord, and we're seeing all of these like tons of Gen Z and Gen Alpha like turning towards the Lord and this like big revival of religion in the younger generations. And they said, we talked to so many pastors and we talked to so many different, so many communities of believers around the country. And they said, it without fail, around the entire country, the churches that are growing the most are the churches that have bold leaders that are being radical, and not just for the sake of being radical, but making like hard decisions, preaching boldly, and preaching like the Bible boldly. Yeah. And I think that's so interesting because that is exactly what everybody needs. Everyone is so sick of the status quo, and that's culturally and in the within the church.
Of nice. Yeah. Everybody's tired of nice. Yeah. Because nice.
Well, I don't know if it's nice.
No. I'll say nice is not kind. Mm-hmm. I think nice is patronizing, nice is placating, nice is sugarcoating, but it's not kind.
It's also crushing the momentum of church growth and like the body of Christ growth.
Yeah. It's terrible. Anyway, there's a lot there.
Anyway.
Coming at you, not live, pre-recorded. Yeah, from
Guys,
here in
thank
Swansea.
You for stopping by
Our House
A to Z, and we'll see you next Friday here in Our House.
This is Messer. And I'm Willa. This is Our House from A to Z. Thanks for coming over.
Well, isn't that special?
I bet him, am I in danger?